Pass over to John now to the notice and summons of meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and good afternoon, members. To all members of Derry City and Strabane District Council, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Council, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically here in the Council Chamber in the Guildhall, Wednesday, 25th of October at 2 o'clock. Alderman Cook. Alderman Guy.
Online, John.
Alderman
John,
Hussey.
online.
Alderman Carrigan. Alderman McCready.
Online.
Alderman McMorris.
John.
Alderman Middleton.
Here, John.
Alderman Wilkinson.
John.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Here.
Councillor Lillian Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs.
Shaw, John.
Councillor Boyle.
Online.
Councillor Cusack. Councillor Deeney.
And Shop.
Councillor Devine.
Shop.
Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy.
Shaw.
Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Fleming.
And Sean.
Councillor Gallagher.
And Shaw.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
And Shaw.
Councillor Heaney.
And Shaw.
Councillor Hutton.
And Shaw.
Councillor Jackson.
And Shaw.
Councillor Leonard.
And Shaw.
Councillor Logue. Councillor McDade. Councillor McGinley.
And Shaw.
Councillor McGowan. Councillor McHugh.
Shaw.
Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Norris. Councillor O'Farrell.
Shaw, John.
Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney. Councillor Enelis.
Shaw.
Thank you, members.
Thank you, John. Moving on to item number 3 now, which is the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the chamber or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded that to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council's privacy notice may be found on the Council website at www.derrystrabane.com. Item number 4 is declarations of members' interests. Anybody can declare them now or throughout the meeting as they arise. So has anybody got any declarations now? No. Okay, item number 5 is chairperson's business. Quite a few people have contacted me regarding this, but I have 2 items just to raise at the start myself, and they're short and sweet. So the first one is just to congratulate the teams responsible in Derry City and Strabane District Council for winning the Small Cities Gold Award at the Britain and Bloom Awards in London, and also who won the Discretionary Award for Innovation in the Community. And also not to forget that the city was also crowned the Best Kept City Award at last week's Best Kept Awards in Newry. Anybody else want to come in on that? No, we're happy enough. The next item that we'll raise is just to congratulate Danny Duffy and Callum McLaughlin from Strabane, who were both crowned All-Ireland boxing champions in Dublin over the weekend. And I've also contacted the Mayor, Patricia Logue, who will host a reception for them in January. Is everybody happy enough? Yep. Okay, so moving on then, so Chairperson business also, 2 members have contacted me on the same issue, which is Councillor Brian Tierney and Councillor Sean Harkin in that order, both on the same issue regarding Gaza. So I'll take that in order that it was contacted. So Councillor Brian Tierney.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I think it's extremely unfortunate that we have to have this conversation today. And I genuinely and sincerely wish that we weren't having to. But I think as a council, and if we are listening to people across this city and district, what we need to see is an end to the terrible attacks that are happening in Gaza. I think it's fair to say that we've all watched on our TV screens over recent weeks the terrible, terrible events which are taking place at the moment. And I think we're extremely well placed in this part of the world to understand that for any peaceful solution, there has to be a process. And from our experience, the first stage in that process is a ceasefire. And that needs to happen right away. The indiscriminate bombing of men, women and children in Gaza needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. We cannot sit idly by and ignore what's going on across the world. This is very much a humanitarian issue, and anyone who's looking at this in a humanitarian way needs to support the calls for an immediate ceasefire. We also need to support calls for the international community to step in as a matter of urgency to bring this ceasefire about, but to also ensure that any ceasefire is based on respect and based on trust with the other side. Imagine where we would be today if the international community didn't step in and help us and help our political leaders of the Good Friday Agreement generation bring about the ceasefires that we in this chamber have been very lucky to benefit from. What we're seeing going on is an absolute disgrace, and my heart genuinely goes out to the people caught up in these terrible, terrible events. I think there will be people in this chamber and probably across this city and district who will wonder why this council's taken the time to discuss this. But I think we have an obligation to do all we can to support the people of Gaza and to do whatever, to lend whatever support we can to the calling and to the installation of that ceasefire. Deputy Mayor, I have a very short proposal, which I've already shared with the committee section. This comes from conversations that we have been having as a party with organisations in Palestine, and a conversation that our party leader, Colin Eastwood, had yesterday with the Palestinian ambassador to the UK. I believe that the calls in this proposal are supported and wanted by the people of Gaza. I would also make a call that we leave our own political differences around this issue on side. I don't think that's helpful to the people of Gaza, and I don't think it's helpful to the situation that those people are going through. I think what we need to do is send a very clear and strong message from this council and from this city and district that we want to see a ceasefire right away. I think it is a legitimate position to support the people of Palestine, support their cause, and condemn the Israeli government for what they're doing and what they're inflicting on the people of Gaza. I also think it's a legitimate position to condemn Hamas for the actions that they have been carrying out as well. And what we need to see is the indiscriminate bombing of men, women and children and across that region stopping right away and allowing peace to prevail. And I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the SDLP to thank the Mayor for granting a request by our party leader to light up the council buildings white earlier this month as a sign of peace, to try and bring that about. And I want to make an appeal to members. I don't care what side of this argument you're coming at it from, whether you think that the Israeli government have a right to defend their territory, or whether you think that Palestine as a state should be recognised. What we should be recognising now is that the bombing and killing of innocent civilians needs to stop, and I'm asking Council to support the proposal that will be before them very shortly, and that proposal calls for that immediate stop and for international law to be respected within the state of Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. I'll just wait till it comes up on the screen. Okay, Councillor Tierney, have you a seconder for that proposal? Councillor McDade. Okay, Councillor Jackson.
I'm a good Deputy Mayor. And I would echo the sentiments of the proposer on the motion. This council has a proud record of standing with the Palestinian people in their right the self-determination. And we've passed numerous motions in the past in calling for solidarity and taking acting on specific measures that we can that we can take as a council to support the cause of the Palestinian people. But now we are faced with a genocide, with the indiscriminate bombing of civilians. It's harrowing to see the images and the news that's coming from Gaza in particular, and right across the West Bank. From our perspective, we're engaging regularly with humanitarian organisations and with leaders within Palestine, and their clear ask is for, or the clear demand is for the international community to collectively join them in calling for an immediate ceasefire and for international law to be respected. It's been widely documented around the war crimes that are currently underway in Palestine, and that's causing great anger right across the world. But the most immediate thing that we can do at this minute in time is collectively stand together and call for an end to the indiscriminate slaughter of civilians. So on that basis, we're fully supportive of the proposal that's in front of us today. Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. And as you said, I have a separate motion that we'll bring forward. Look, this is our council has voted in support of the boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign, which seeks to make the Israeli state the pariah state in world affairs. And I think we can see now in the last 2 weeks from this genocidal war that Israel is carrying out exactly why that is the right decision. And it's entirely appropriate for us to be talking about this in the council. In fact, it's expected that we would be talking about this. There was more than 2,000 people in Guildhall Square on Saturday. There have been tens of thousands of people demonstrating across this entire island. So this is something that people feel very, very strongly about, and that there's many, many people who can identify directly with what's happening in Gaza right now and what's happening right across the region. Personally, I don't think it's saying a strong enough message. I think we have to call what's happening what it is, which is a genocidal siege of Gaza. There are now 6,500 people dead, probably more by now. That was based on the hundreds of rockets that Israel landed in Gaza last night. There are thousands of dead Palestinian children. And obviously, what happened on October 7th in terms of what Hamas did, a lot of people will have been shocked by that, sent shockwaves around the world. It was harrowing for a lot of people. But I think that this is the outgrowth and this is the consequence of what apartheid Israel has been doing. And for people who want to start history on October 7th, they will not help resolve this. They will not help the Palestinians. They will not help bring about peace for Arabs, for Muslims, for Jews, and for Christians and everybody else in the region. People have been calling for the international community to act for years now, particularly after the election of this right-wing government in Israel that has ratcheted up its strangulation of Gaza, that has ratcheted up the building of illegal settlements, that has supported pogroms against innocent Palestinian people in their homes, that has also conducted ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem. So there was going to be a response by Palestine, by Palestinians, by people living in Gaza. And I think what we want to do is lay the basis for an end to the violence that we're seeing, and that means calling immediately for cessation of Israel's bombing campaign that is murdering innocent people, where they are committing war crime after war crime, transferring people from the north of Gaza to the south, turning off the water, turning off electricity, turning off fuel, denying medical supplies, bombing hospitals, bombing schools. This is one war crime after another, and I think we have to send the strongest possible message. to that effect. And that's why we will be putting forward a separate motion calling for a cessation of the bombing, a cessation of the siege, and calling for for the Irish and British governments to expel their ambassadors as a way to put pressure on the Israeli state and as a way to put pressure on the American government and the British government to shift their support for Israel's war on Gaza. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hargan. Councillor Raymond Barr online.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to take this opportunity as well to add my condemnation to the Israeli government and also those members of the international community who are by their practical support for Israel complicit.
Can you hear me
in this.
okay, Councillor Barr? Yep.
Sorry? Can you hear me now?
I'll come back to you, Councillor Barr. Is anyone else looking in to speak? Alderman Hussey, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Harkin said not to be starting at the 7th of October. The current situation commenced on the 7th of October, like it or not. And I do have to be critical of Councillor Tierney, that this comes as a pop-up motion. Situation started on the 7th of October. There's been plenty of time to submit a proper notice of motion. There's been plenty of time, Councillor Tierney, through you, Mayor. True and lasting peace settlement for the Middle East is something that every single person in this chamber believes should happen, may hope may happen, and one day be achieved. Israel, with the support of America, Egypt, and others, has indeed begun to allow certain humanitarian corridor to get aid in to those who have been displaced due to the horrific actions of a terrorist group, namely Hamas. They did that, or started that, on the 7th of October. Their actions have horrified the world. The unfortunate truth is that there are those across the Middle East who do not want a true and lasting peace. They wish only for the eradication of Israel and of every person living in Israel. Hamas's stated aim is the eradication of Israel. Terrorist organizations such as Hamas are committed to causing death and destruction with no consideration of the repercussions for those they claim to represent. People have said Hamas is a prison for the people who live in Gaza. The prison guards are Hamas. Make no mistake about that. Any lasting peace in the Middle East starts with every country recognizing and calling out those terrorist organizations who think nothing, as was shown at the beginning of October, of rape, murder, dismembering women and children, and kidnapping. Any motion that calls for a true and lasting peace in the Middle East must start by calling out terrorists and their apologists. A concern that I have with this particular motion lies at the end, because there is an attempt to prejudge a solution by saying the only solution is a two-state solution. That causes me concern, and that the ongoing negotiations, as rightly said, headed by international intervention and assistance, should not have that prejudgment that the only solution is a two-state solution. I have a concern on the motion, particularly with regard to that at the end. With regard to the humanitarian issues, there is nobody who cannot say no to those. Yes, those need to be supported. But this is a substantive motion, and greater consideration should have been given to bringing it forward. The issue at the end concerns me, and I will be abstaining on the vote. And again, I condemn all actions against civilians. But we must remember the nature of Hamas. They are using human beings in a shield-like fashion, which is totally unacceptable. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. I'm going to go back to Councillor Raymond Barr online to see if we can hear you now. So,
Thank you,
Raymond, go ahead.
Chair. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you okay.
Thank you, Chair. I think previous speakers, with the exception of Alderman Hussey, have said it all there. So I just want to condemn the Israeli government and also those members of the international community who are, by their practical support for Israel, complicit in this deliberate act of ethnic cleansing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, this didn't start. No matter what Alderman Hussey says, there's thousands of people have been killed before the 7th of October. How many times have we sat in this chamber and put motion after motion after motion? What happened on the 7th of October was a reaction to what the Israeli state has been doing for decades to the Palestinian people. I'm not going to condone the deliberate targeting of civilians. And there's hostages on all sides. Before the 7th of October, there's thousands of Palestinians, including hundreds of children, who are being detained, not through due process, but by military tribunals. I have no problem calling for a ceasefire, but a ceasefire is not enough. You need to address the cause, the core cause, and the core cause is Israeli aggression. A ceasefire, nobody could be against a ceasefire, but until the Israeli state and all its evils is dealt with, Hamas is a symptom of Israeli aggression. And what they're doing now, by this current phase of genocide, are breeding more and more people who will be queuing up to join Hamas. What they've went through for the last decades, a continuous bombardment for the last 16 years, has unfolded on the 7th of October. The world stood idly by. The language, the genocidal language coming from Israelis and their backers in the US is absolutely shocking. The dehumanizing of the Palestinian people, human animals, the talk of flattening it. This is a second Nakba. There's absolutely no excuse. It's akin to what the Nazis did. Alderman Hussey talked about RIP, and I'm surprised, Chair, that you didn't stop him. There's been absolutely no evidence. The only people during this that I've heard testimony of attempted RIP has been Palestinian detainees. So whilst I have no problem with ceasefires, you need to address the core cause. Otherwise, in 20 years, people will be sitting in this chamber talking about the slaughter of Palestinian people and their reaction to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Alderman McCready online.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I take note of all the points that's been raised, and I'm going to come at this from probably two angles, I suppose. And I suppose I should declare an interest that I fought Hamas and its elements across the globe, predominantly in the Middle East region, for the guts of 20 years. So I'll try and do this without prejudice. And I must make an absolute distinction between the Palestinian people who are and have the right to ask for political aspiration, self-determination. But there's a full stop after that, where Hamas, in my opinion, is they have hijacked an entire race of that region, using it for the intifada, like a religious war. And the people who's kind of at the most mercy of this is the Palestinian people themselves. And my heart goes out to all of them, because they are people from this world. They are our people. It just so happens they have different religion, and they are young people. They are young children, women, and men, and families. It's going to be caught up in this for the next number of years. And so, I do stand in solidarity with them. And there's no conditions with that. It's just to make sure there's a distinction we talk about Hamas, you're not talking about the Palestinian people. Mr. Deputy Mayor, it's, they're a terrorist organization that deal in raw terrorism, as we've seen throughout history. And I flick to my second point towards the Israeli government and the Israeli military, that, I hold them to the international standards. So they themselves in military operations must make a clear distinction, a military distinction of necessity and proportionality when they target Hamas to defend, rightly defend to when they were attacked. But that's not carte blanche where they can flatten villages and flatten entire regions. That is equally unacceptable. And so I'm not going to be in here trying to raise a bigger flag of Israel and Palestine, because clearly that hasn't worked throughout the world, and it certainly won't help us stoking the fire in a little place in our country where we're still deeply divided and haven't worked everything out. So let's not be hypocritical of offering solutions when we can't even get our brown bin sorted in our council area. And I suppose lastly is the humanitarian effort. I said that this is critical. And I can say this from my personal experience, there are no winners in war. And at the end of this conflict, whether it be weeks, months, and years, there are no winners. There are only losers, irrespective of how it's portrayed in the international media. I said the losers will be the families, the service personnel in the Israeli Defense Force, the families caught up in recent events of the Hamas massacre, and now with the inevitable collateral damage from the retaliation from Israel, because I've been in military operations around the world, and there is no negating collateral damage, no matter what people say. I've seen it firsthand, and this is my concern, that no matter what happens, there are going to be casualties and there are going to be regret, and it's not a solution. So I take on board this motion, with the exception of the last paragraph, which my colleague has outlaid, that yes, there's a political sway on that, but I do have to just raise the point to the member who brought this forward. I take his point. He has come at this from a relatively neutral standpoint to put humanitarian first and not just jumping behind an Israeli or a Palestinian flag. So I do commend him for that, but I do take account of that last paragraph, which was a divergence of political connotations there. Thanks for the motion coming forward. Thanks for letting me speak, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman McCready. And our final speaker on this is Alderman Keith Kerrigan online.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, for allowing me in. Apologies, I was a wee bit late. But Deputy Mayor, I do thank the motion, the wording of the motion. Now, apologies, I'm on the mobile. I'm not on. I'm not on the iPad. I'm on the mobile, and I don't have access to the chat box. But my colleagues have informed me of the wording of the motion. Again, referencing back to Alderman Hussey's comments there, there was time to put on a motion, a proper motion in through council. But and again, I do, from what I'm informed here, Councillor Tierney has come down on the humanitarian side, but I do have issues with the last paragraph. And as I say, it has been well rehearsed. There are only going to be losers on both sides of this issue here in regards to this, and the incidents which are taking place in regards to the loss of innocent civilians there on both sides is horrendous. And we could support anything in regards to easing the suffering of the ordinary men and women and children. The issue is that we do feel that, I say, the last paragraph again is a stumbling block, and on this occasion we feel that we must abstain on this one here. We do, again, as regards the rest of the wording of Councillor Tierney's motion there, we're content with that. But so Mayor, I'm minded of abstaining, but I do take issue, and as I say, I didn't hear everyone's comments because, as I say, I was coming in slightly later, and apologise again, but I do take issue with the comments made by people before profit and Councillor Harkin when he was unable to condemn the murder of 1,400 Israelis. And I think that's a pure disgrace. A pure disgrace. The wording he stated, he at no occasion condemned those incidents. And it just tells you what people before profit is. There's different classes of citizens to them, and pure disgrace. But thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, for letting me in.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. And I'll now go back to Councillor Brian Tierney just to sum up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think I suppose the mood music, it's going to pass through council, which I'm delighted with. I am shocked and I suppose disappointed at some of the comments. But if some people's biggest criticism of this proposal is the fact that it's coming on under Chair's business and not under the motion section of the agenda, then I can live with that. The main focus on this, and I think everyone who's spoken on it has agreed that this is around the humanitarian aspect of it. And if people have an issue with the last paragraph, that's fine. I would simply ask, what's your solution? What is your solution to stopping the bombing and killing that's going on across the Middle East? Because I haven't heard anybody offer an alternative solution. Everybody wants, those that spoke against it, one who actually made clear that he couldn't even see the text of it, wants to have a go at it, but hasn't able to provide an alternative. That's what we think should happen. Either vote for it or don't vote for it. But on a humanitarian basis, you should vote for it. But if they want to criticise the fact that we have put a bit of work into this, we have done a bit of communication with people who are in Palestine, who are impacted by what's going on there. And as I said in my opening remarks, Deputy Mayor, and I'll leave it there, this is what our understanding is of what the people out there want. If people here have an alternative, then they should put it forward, or else they should vote or not for the proposal. But it's very clear, and I asked I made the point during my opening remarks that I wish that we were able to put our own political differences aside in terms of this humanitarian issue that's going on across the world. But it's clear that some either don't want to or unable or are unable to do that. And I think that's pretty sad whenever there's men, women and children getting bombed in their beds across the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. And obviously through that there was a difference in opinion, so I'm going to ask the Chief.
Chair, the vote's been called.
It's too late, Alderman Hussey, because Councillor Tierney has already summed up. So we'll move the Chief Executive now for a vote.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Alderman Cook,
Abstain.
Alderman Guy, Alderman Hussey,
Abstain.
Alderman Carrigan.
John, abstain.
Thank you. Alderman Carrigan,
Abstain, John.
Alderman McCready,
Abstain.
Alderman McMorris,
Abstain.
Alderman Middleton,
Abstain.
Alderman Wilkinson,
Abstain.
Councillor Jason Barr,
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr,
For.
Councillor Boggs,
John.
Councillor Boyle,
For.
Councillor Deeney, Councillor Devine, Councillor Donnelly,
Abstain.
Councillor Duffy, Alex Duffy, Councillor Sandra Duffy, Councillor Farrell,
For.
Councillor Fleming, Councillor Gallagher,
Abstain.
Councillor Harkin, Councillor Hart, Councillor Heaney, Councillor Hutton, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Leonard, Councillor McDade, Councillor McGinley, Councillor McGowan, Councillor McHugh, Councillor Mooney, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Norris,
For.
Councillor O'Farrell, Councillor Riley, Councillor Tierney.
John, put it in the chat box.
Thank you. Councillor Neelis. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, I've recorded 26 for, no one against, and 11 abstentions, so the proposal passes.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. I'll now move on to Councillor Sean Harkin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, Joe Biden has said now is not the time for Israel to stop bombing. There's 6,500 people dead in Gaza. There's scores of people dead in the West Bank. And it's very clear that Israel is preparing the ground for a ground invasion that will potentially see the slaughter of tens of thousands. And this is happening in a context where, as everybody knows, the food, there's been a blockade on food, there's a blockade on fuel, a blockade on electricity, a blockade on the means of life for people inside Gaza. And the trickle of humanitarian aid that is arriving in to Gaza right now will not undo the catastrophe that is taking place. So I think that that's just, we have to be very clear about the scale of war that Israel is conducting. Using the word genocide, we cannot use that word lightly, but that is what's happening. And this Israeli government in particular, this apartheid Israeli government, is a government that is openly talking now about moving Palestinians, transferring them out of the areas in which they live, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And we know that this has been at the heart of the expansionist Israeli project for many, many years, but they've never been able to speak it, but they've undermined any possibility of a two-state solution by encouraging the settlement of 700,000 illegal settlers in the West Bank now. And that is what has caused this crisis. And anybody that won't acknowledge that should have been paying attention to what the BDS movement was doing, what people in Gaza were saying for a long, long time. And look, just in response to the DUP alderman, that People Before Profit do not support, do not condone the targeting of innocent civilians or the taking of innocent civilians as hostages. But the problem here is that we have a chorus of people who haven't spoken up, paid attention, cared about what is happening to Palestinians, even though they are living under occupation, an illegal occupation in international law. And even though Palestinians under international law have the right to resist, they've never allowed any formal recognition of the suffering of the Palestinian people. So all these condemnations of Hamas have been used by Israel to basically go and kill 6,500 people right now. And that's the problem with the condemnations that are coming from the British government, the American government, and many, many others. So I think we have to be very, very clear. The main problem right now is the bombardment of Gaza by the Israeli army, and those bombs are paid for by the American government. And that we have to stop that from happening to allow the destruction, and we have to stop Israel from being able to conduct a ground invasion that will see a lot more people, innocent people, killed. So I think we have to be very clear and put that out there as a council, because that's what the demand has been here in the demonstrations in Derry, in Belfast, in Dublin, and right across the island, and globally as well. I also think we will send a very powerful message if we actually call for the expulsion of the Israeli ambassadors to Britain and to Ireland. And that is completely in line with BDS. How can we not? How can we act as if things are normal right now when they're clearly not? This is one of the worst crises that we've been facing globally for a long time. The repercussions of Israel's violence now in Gaza will be global. This will not stop at the borders of Gaza. It will not stop at the borders of Israel. It will spread internationally. I think that the key is the dismantling of Israeli apartheid as the first step towards actually reaching a peaceful solution. I think the message now is, and the pressure that we have, is about ending Israel's ability to bomb and kill innocent people across Gaza. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Harkin, have you a notice of motion that you wish to?
I do, yeah, it's sent that in. Can that be put up? Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I actually thought it was on the screen, so I was assuming people could see it.
Have you a seconder for that? Councillor. Yep, Councillor Donnelly. Okay, anyone wish to speak on this proposal? Alderman McDonald.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. It's needless to say that the motion in front of us is very one-sided. We've heard about the atrocities that has happened, and I in no way condemn or condone any murders of any sort. We have seen multiple murders in our own country here, and we just don't want to see that anywhere else in the world. I just think, 1,400 people is not to be dismissed in any way, and his resolution on the board at the minute is basically very one-sided, and I'm just disappointed at that. I do commend Brian for bringing, his motion forward, and as much as we didn't agree with one of the paragraphs, his featured on the humanitarian aid within Gaza and Israel. And I just like to say that whilst we don't want to see any murders anywhere, we will definitely not be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Morris. Alderman Derek Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. It's an incredulous motion, to be honest with you. The member purposefully ignores the atrocities carried out by Hamas terrorists. Horrific acts that did take place on the 7th of October inside Israel, amongst some of the most barbaric acts recorded by the terrorists themselves, actually. I personally, and I believe our party, supports Israel's right to defend its borders, and indeed their undertaking to remove Hamas from Gaza entirely. You've heard my colleague, Alderman McCready, a man with experience of the horrors of war, made it very clear that there is the expectation that Israel will act within the recognised conventions in ensuring that innocent Palestinians are protected as much as possible. However, the actions of Hamas in launching attacks from residential areas, from schools and even hospitals, creates circumstances where it is they who are placing their own people in harm's way. But what else would you expect from a terrorist organisation, much less one like Hamas? I think it'll be no surprise that I certainly, and I believe my colleagues, will not be able to support this motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Brian Tierney.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I suppose the same subject, but a slightly different slant on it. I am, I suppose, slightly shocked that the DUP have just commended a proposal that I have put, and I thank them for that before Council, yet and all abstained on what I see was a very good proposal. I think everybody has recognised, certainly in this chamber, the position and the way that we within the SDLP are going about trying to do whatever we can to support and to stop the killing and bombing of people in the Middle East. And that's coming from a genuine humanitarian position. And as I said in my opening remarks on my own proposal, we as a council should be doing whatever we can and applying whatever pressure we can to stop what is going on and to stop people dying, because that's what's happening. It doesn't matter whether they're a Palestinian or whether they're Israeli. They're dying. And we should be doing whatever we can and using whatever influence we have as a council or as individual councillors or from political parties or whatever to stop innocent people dying. It's that simple. It doesn't matter what flag they may carry. We have a moral obligation, in my opinion, to do whatever we can to stop it. And people getting into arguments with people before profit because of their position, or with me because I didn't do it in the right format for a council meeting, was absolutely zero. for the people in Gaza. Absolutely
Can I
zero.
ask you to draw your fire stick close?
From our position, we want to see this brought to an end. We want to do whatever we can to bring it to an end. And if that means that we call on governments where we may have influence to expel ambassadors to stop this happening, then we must call on them to expel them. And the SDLP will be supporting the proposal before us from a humanitarian position. Deputy Mayor.
Councillor, Tierney, Councillor Jackson.
I'm Cormac, Deputy Mayor, and it is extremely frustrating and disappointing that the discussion in relation to this has delved on the political point scoring, and in the midst of a humanitarian crisis, there's what we can't ignore is that there's women and children that are being slaughtered on a daily basis in Gaza. An area the size of this council area with 2 million people, 50% of them are children. There's indiscriminate bombing from the skies, and to use Alderman McCready's term, the inevitable consequences of collateral damage. Now, we know the impact of collateral damage from British military operations here in Ireland, and we're seeing it play out in Gaza as it is at this minute in time. We're facing a situation where there's people being slaughtered on a daily basis. The schools, hospitals are being stripped of energy, of vital energy to save people's lives. The population are being starved of food and water. It's disgraceful, and if it can't be described as a war crime, I don't know what is. But the information and the feedback that we're receiving on a daily basis from leaders within Palestine is that they want a focus on the immediate cessation of the indiscriminate bombing, and for international law to be completely respected. It's been ignored for decades now, but the focus needs to be on those key asks. Now, I can completely agree with the sentiments around the expulsion of ambassadors and all of that, but from within Palestine, the message is very clear that the message needs to be focused on the cessation and the respect for international law. So on that basis, taking direction from those that are at the heart of the struggle for the Palestinian people, we won't be supporting the motion that's in front of us today, and we'll be abstaining. Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Donnelly.
Colonel Chair. Chair, I'm actually shocked here at the refusal of Sinn Féin to support this. Didn't think it would be shocked, but it's something that they will have to explain to people outside. I think, when I say I'm shocked, I literally shocked as thrown there. People in Gaza can focus on nothing at the minute but staying alive. And we can see the scenes on a daily basis. Slaughter. They're focusing on nothing but trying to stay alive. Alderman McCready said there's no winners in war. There is winners in war, and it's called arms manufacturers, which he's part and parcel of. There is winners. There's a lot of money to be made. We had one in this city called Raytheon until it was booted out, which is probably one of the proudest things that I was ever part of. I've seen at first hand the damage that these missiles do in Lebanon. Chair, regards what's going on there, you don't ask a serial killer to pause from his killing and then have they hope that he or she is just going to have a change of heart and not continue again. Any pause here is welcomed, but there needs to be change. There needs to be pressure put on the Israeli state so that they don't just rearm and get back at it again. There needs to be meaningful change. There has to be a ceasefire, but there has to be change. You know, it's being portrayed here that Hamas is the problem. And as I said, Hamas is a symptom. In the West Bank, where settler colonists and Israelis are killing people with impunity, torturing people, burning people's houses, there's no Hamas there. This is a war on the Palestinian people. And hundreds have been killed and thousands have been arrested. And there's no Hamas there. It's a genocide. The US and Britain have given the green light for this, and it's funded by billions of dollars from the US. Pressure needs to be put on. It needs to be put on Britain, and it needs to be put on the US. And this is just a small step in expelling. We've a BDS position, a corporate position in this council, and we need to ensure that it happens. I fully support the motion that is here, and it should be only the beginning of pressure to be put on the apartheid state of Israel. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. And the final speaker on this is Alderman McCready online.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'll overlook the personal cheap shots of me and my profession of arms if members can heed the gravity of the following point. And, whether we think it's, flying a flag, whether it's Israeli or Palestinian, or try and give some credence to Hamas, let me just say this. The fact that you or anyone would fly a flag or somehow give support to Hamas, of which I've already made a distinction to separate from the Palestinian people. But Hamas will have no problem, whether you fly their flag or support Hamas in any way. If you were in their estate right now, because you're an infidel, they will cut your head off and they will tear you down the street. The fact that we're here in a nice environment without repercussions, we can say what we like, but that is the ideology of Hamas, who's just an extension of ISIS and Daesh across the Middle East region. It is a cancer. And, and the last point, when we look at this motion pertaining to the expulsion of diplomats, I would argue against that. The whole point is to communicate more, not less dialogue, but more dialogue. How can you go towards peace and reconciliation when you remove elements of how governments and communities communicate with each other? So that in itself is an outright contradiction, which shows exactly what this motion is intended for. And it's unhelpful. And as my colleague mentioned, will not be supporting something like this. Thanks for allowing me to speak, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman McCready. I will give Councillor Harkin the opportunity to sum up, and if we could keep the comments short, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And look, Martin Luther King said the United States was the greatest purveyor of violence in the world, and it still is today, greater than any other armed group. And the United States government funds Israeli apartheid. If it didn't fund Israeli apartheid, Israel wouldn't be able to do what it's doing right now over decades to the Palestinians and what they're doing immediately in Gaza. And I think that we have to be strong and stand up to the United States and not allow any other considerations to weigh upon us when we are trying to send a message to the world. People in Palestine are looking to us. Palestinian refugees who are scattered across the world, 6 million of them, are looking to people in Ireland to take a very strong stand. They're not going to dictate to us what we should do, but they want us to take the strongest possible stand. I believe the people of Ireland have been doing that, and I think we have to try and up the pressure on the Irish government in particular to take a stand that is in line with what the vast majority of people across this island actually believe. And I think calling for the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador is a small step towards that, because what it says is Israel isn't a pariah state. Apartheid Israel and what it's doing to people in Gaza and what it's doing to people across Palestine is unacceptable in international law, and that we have to do everything that we can to send that message. So I'm very disappointed that Sinn Féin today won't back this basic demand that I know that they've backed previously that I know many of their supporters also agree with. I think it undermines our ability to send the strongest possible message. And yes, as Councillor Tierney said, we have to do everything we can. We have to actually implement the boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign. That is one of the biggest things that the international community can do to actually help people in Gaza and to stop the violence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. And again, with the difference of opinion for the notice of motion, I'll pass to the Chief Executive to take a vote.
Thank you, members. Alderman Cook.
Against.
Alderman Guy.
Against.
Alderman Hussey.
Against.
Alderman Carrigan.
Against, John.
Alderman McCready.
Against.
Alderman McMorris.
Against.
Alderman Middleton.
Against.
Alderman Wilkinson.
Against, John.
Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
For.
Councillor Boggs. Councillor Boyle.
For.
Councillor Deany.
Abstain.
Councillor Devine. Councillor Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Alex Duffy.
Abstain.
Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Fleming.
Abstain.
Councillor Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
Abstain.
Councillor Heaney. Councillor Hutton. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard.
Abstain.
Councillor McDade. Councillor McGinley. Councillor McGowan. Councillor McHugh.
Abstain.
Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Norris. Councillor Farrell.
Abstain.
Councillor Riley.
For.
Councillor Tierney. Councillor Nevis. Thank you, members. Deputy Mayor, I've recorded 12 for, 8 against and 17 abstentions, so the motion passes.
Okay, that motion passes. So moving on to the next item on Chair's business, which is Alderman Derek Hussey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Members will recall last year that the President's Cup, a football competition between the winners of the Senior Cup and in Northern Ireland, the IFA Senior Cup, and the winners of the FAI Cup was played at the Brandywell in the presence of Mr. Higgins. And great joy emanated from that. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to inform Council that our Council area will again be represented in this All-Ireland competition at a junior level, albeit where Derryview Reserves, who won the Irish Junior Cup, the IFA competition, will be playing on Saturday in the President's Junior Cup final against Newmarket Celtic. I believe they may be from Sligo. The fixture will be played at Home Farm ground in Dublin on Saturday, and I am sure I expect a positive response when I ask that this council will extend their best wishes to the club as they take part in this prestigious competition. Quite unique, I would imagine, that at a senior level last year, the council area had representation through Derry City. In the Senior Cup this year, in the President's Cup, they have representation at a junior level via Derryview Reserves. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Hussey, would I like to come in on that? That's duly noted. Alderman Hussey, thank you. And Alderman Keith Kerrigan online.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and I will be as brief as I can here in this one. I would just like, Deputy Mayor, to pay tribute to Alderman Alan Breslin, as he has now retired from Council. Alan was always a very faithful member, and particularly in his time on the old Staban Council and subsequently on Derry City Staban Council, representing the Glenelly ward and then the Sperrin ward, as it then was known. Alan, as I'm sure many will know, he may not have spoke much at meetings, but Alan was a worker on the ground. And I know that many people testify to that those that came to Alderman Breslin looking for work or looking for advice, Alan did his best for them and worked hard for the constituents in the area. As I say, it's not all about hearing yourself talk. Alderman Breslin was a good worker on the ground and could be worked with. And as I say, I'm sure there are some members there across the chamber who would know that he's someone that you could have worked with. They may well have had political differences, but he was a good worker and was fair to all, in my view. And I will be fair as well to Alderman Breslin. He did take on to the online meetings, particularly during COVID there. And for a man, and I don't think he'll be too offended there, for a man of more advanced age years, he was able to get on well with the online meetings. There was a few times you just had to remind him to mute the mic, but he was very good though. So as I say, I will miss Alderman Breslin's words of wisdom there, and as he would have told you, he was a very faithful member, and as I say, I am sad to see him retire, but due to, he said that it was time for him to go. He's done an excess of 30 years on council, so I am thankful for that. And in regards to that, I do now welcome Gary Wilkinson as Alderman Breslin's replacement, and I wish him well. And I will just give you a quick run through here of some position changes. I have forwarded this to committee section, but I'm told I'm better to just run through it here now very briefly. Planning Committee, Alderman McMorris replaces Alderman Breslin. Audit Risk Assurance Committee, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman McMorris. Governance Strategic Planning, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman Breslin. Northern Ireland Housing Council, Alderman Kerrigan replaces Alderman Breslin. By reason of the Sperrin DA, the Sperrin Local Growth Partnership Board, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman Breslin. And the Staban Neighbourhood Renewal Partnership, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman Breslin. Internal Working Groups, Anti-Poverty Task and Finish Group, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman McMorris. Finance Working Group, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman Breslin. And External Bodies, National Association of Councillors, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman Breslin. NILGA, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman Breslin. Psalm Association, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman Breslin. Arts and Culture Strategy Co-Design, Alderman Wilkinson replaces Alderman Middleton. And Northwest Regional Waste Management Group, Alderman Kerrigan replaces Alderman Breslin. Thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me in.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. A few speakers on this, starting off with Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And can I express my thanks to Alderman Breslin over the years. As has been mentioned there, his career in council started. It was the term after mine, actually in '93, I think it was, in Staban District Council. And indeed, it's worthy of note that Alderman Breslin's service was recognised on Friday at the NAC AGM when Alderman Breslin received his 30-year certificate for service to local government. I think the points have been well made by Alderman Kerrigan with regard to Alan. He was one of those people, he didn't overly vocalise much of what his thoughts were, but when you sat in private conversation with Alan, his views were sound and strong. He wasn't afraid to say what he thought in the quiet of personal company. I had the pleasure of being with Alan on several visits representing council at other locations, and again, indeed on private occasions, for example, to the Somme and things like that there, and found Alan to be tremendous company. And as has been highlighted, I think the major element with regard to council representation for Alan was the work on the ground in his electoral area, and he was well respected for the work that was carried out there. So I wish Alan every good wish in his retirement, and hello and welcome to I presume it is Alderman Wilkinson coming in. You're very welcome. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, I'm going to make it Deputy Mayor and just to wish Alderman Breslin all the best. Didn't have I didn't have a lot of opportunity to work closely with Alderman Breslin, but on the back of Alderman Kerrigan's comments around his hard, diligent work on the ground, we all know as councillors the most important work that we do is within our constituency, and that's no doubt the work that Alderman Breslin is focused on, given the fact that he has been continuously returned as a reward for his hard work, and I want to commend him for everything that he has done for his constituency within his council and the Legacy Council, and I just want to wish Alderman Wilkinson all the best and look forward to working with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Raymond Barr online, your hands up. Is this on this issue?
No, Chair, that's a mistake.
Thank you. Alderman McCready online.
Thank you. Just want to commend the long service of Alderman Breslin. 30 years. He needs more than a medal. I think that's exceptional. Great guy, highly respected. Wish him well in retirement. And I like to welcome Alderman Wilkinson all the best in his new appointment. And if he gets beyond 3 years, never mind 30 years, then he'll be doing well. Good luck.
Thank you, Alderman McCready. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And just to join with others across the chamber, to wish Alderman Breslin all the best in his retirement. 30 years in elected politics is quite an achievement for anybody. And I think I, like many others, didn't have much opportunity to work closely with Alderman Breslin. But I think, from my experience, you can see from his vote that he got in his own DEA, that the work that he was obviously involved in within that particular area was very much appreciated by his community. Alderman Kerrigan touched on a point that's, for a man of his age, he adapted well to the online systems. And I think that's very true, particularly when needing to make a quick exit. Because, Deputy Mayor, I remember a time where I can only assume mistakenly Alderman Breslin joined a meeting of the Irish Unity Working Group. And when he realised that what he had joined, he made a very, very quick exit. And he knew exactly how to get out of the meeting in a very quick time frame. But genuinely, on behalf of the SDLP, we wish Alderman Breslin all the best in his retirement. And we also look forward to working with Alderman Wilkinson in the time ahead, and wish him all the best in his new role as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just wanted to concur with Alderman Kerrigan's comments, to thank Alderman Breslin for his lengthy service to the DEP and to the Sperrin Ward. I know many people who are hugely thankful for the work that he has done for them, but I'm sure he'll enjoy his retirement now. And just to wish my colleague, Alderman Wilkinson, all the best in the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Middleton. And just to behalf of myself, just as a fellow Sperrin councillor of Alderman Breslin, just to wish him all the very best in his retirement. They say a week is a long time in politics, to remain 30 years, so I can't see me quite reaching the 30-year mark, to be honest, but congratulations on that. And also to yourself, Alderman Wilkinson, for putting your head above the parapet, as they say. Wish you all the best in your tenure, and all the best going forward. Thank you. Moving on, next on the item is, who contacted me, was Councillor Caroline Devine.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Last week, the North saw the establishment of the first Menopause charity. I want to welcome its establishment and its launch last week, and I look forward to seeing how Menopause Together can change women's lives by educating, empowering and supporting them to have a better menopause experience. Perimenopause and menopause is a natural part of every woman's life, but it's not an easy transition. 75% of women experience physical and or psychological symptoms, and 25% experience severe symptoms that have a significant impact on their quality of life. Despite the fact that over 50% of the population will go through menopause, it still remains a taboo subject, and there's a lack of education and awareness around it. We should be able to talk about menopausal symptoms in the same way we discuss any other health issue. We need to be able to talk openly about menopause because women are suffering in silence. Women need to be better prepared. We need to promote a greater awareness of the wide range of physical and psychological symptoms that go with it. We need to offer a holistic approach to managing perimenopause and menopause, not just a medical intervention, but including diet and lifestyle interventions as well. We need access to evidence-based information so women can make informed decisions about how best to support their health and well-being during this stage in their lives and beyond. I work in this area and I meet women regularly who are struggling with symptoms, women who tell me that they are at rock bottom, they don't recognise themselves anymore, they feel lost, they're not being listened to, and they don't know where to turn. And it's now time this changed. Menopause isn't just a woman's issue. It's an issue for everyone, for partners, for families. It's a healthcare issue and it's a workplace issue. There needs to be more trusted, accurate information and awareness in the public domain so menopause is properly understood by everyone. We need more training and knowledge amongst our healthcare professionals and more support in the workplace. I want to commend this council in leading the way by being the first council in the North to implement a menopause policy back in 2020. We need all our workplaces to have a menopause policy. Many women will be working through the menopause and well beyond. Research in these islands show that between 10 and 12% of women leave their jobs because of symptoms. And 10 years ago, I was one of those statistics, mainly because of lack of knowledge around menopause at the time, and I didn't know what was happening to me. Employers need to be informed and they need to adapt and create an environment that supports and retains these talented and experienced women rather than losing them from the workforce. There remains a lack of training and knowledge amongst our healthcare professionals, and women are feeling let down in this regard. We need our clinicians and our healthcare providers to have up-to-date training and knowledge on menopause. Otherwise, it's impossible for them to offer appropriate information and treatment options to their patients. So I am encouraged that we now have a menopause charity that will champion change in this area, ensuring everyone is better educated and informed on perimenopause and menopause, and that women are better supported as they navigate that journey. I'd like to wish Menopause Together every success in their future work, and I would hope that the council would support me on that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Devine. Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this forward. As a chairperson of a women's group, we recently had an organisation in talking to our women's group about issues around the menopause, and it was startling to hear about how many women actually lost their jobs over effects of the menopause. And it was even more startling to hear that women weren't even aware of they were having effects of the menopause. And it just shows you how much lack of education around the subject is out there. So 100%, I agree with everything that has been said, and we'd like to put our support on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris. Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Devine and Alderman McMorris. I agree with everything you're saying. I know as women, I hate to say it, but we go through a lot more than what men do. We have it difficult, we have it tight between teenage years, pregnancy, babies, and then menopause throughout our lifetime. I know that Sinead McLaughlin did a women's health survey over the past year, and a big one of the outcomes of that was highlighting the difficulties that women face through menopause, not just the physical and emotional and mental difficulties that we go through, but like you say, that kind of invisibility where people feel that they've lost themselves, they don't know what's going on, and we need to be highlighting the reason why this is happening and that it's a physical cause. I'm delighted to hear that there's a menopause strategy in the council. I know in my job in the trust, there's menopause cafes, there's menopause clinics where people can meet up and share information and share coping techniques and coping mechanisms outside of that medical intervention. So again, just from the SDLP perspective, putting my support behind it as well. I'm delighted to hear that it's in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDade. Councillor Donny.
Very much, Chair. Chair, I'm involved in a separate project, and the topic is outside of here, a community project regarding menopause. And it's just an idea that's come up the last 2 weeks. And I have to say, the word startling there was used. The amount of people that I've been talking to about this subject, and it affects them, or it affects their mother, or affects, you know, their partner, it's mind blowing. And you know, I think it's something that there needs to be more education, or maybe I just wasn't aware of it until recently. I was always aware of the word, but when you dig down into it and you're talking to people who have it, it is startling. So the previous speakers, you know, regarding this project, if they don't mind, I'll be making my way around them over the next block of weeks if it's okay, because in order to you know, help the project that I'm doing. But I think regards males, I think that there's a lot of the male population that just hasn't got a clue, and that people very, very close to them are going through this, and a lot of men don't even realise what's happening. So happy to endorse the comments and support what you've said. Thank you.
You, Councillor Donnelly, and I don't see any other members looking to speak on this, so thanks very much. Councillor Devine again. Oh, sorry, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, and thanks to Councillor Devine for raising this. And I think we will definitely be supporting the project as well. And you know, Council does have a strategy on menopause awareness and protecting people, and it would be good at some point to have an update on that and how it's going, to hear from our workforce. And yeah, look, I think that we need more awareness, and then we have to have, in terms of workplaces, stronger rights to make sure women don't lose their jobs because of menopause and what they're going through. And that means we need reform as well, and the strengthening of employment rights. But look, I think society needs to be reorganised around the realities of women's lives that for a long time have been denied or not understood, be that pregnancy, child rearing, parenting, menopause. You know, when people say it's a man's world, it's because those things are seen, those things take people out of the workforce, they push people back into the home, and we have to reorganise things around those realities so that people don't get punished for having children, punished because of natural, you know, changes to the body. We actually have to reorganise everything. So look, all this is a step towards raising awareness and doing something about it. And again, just wanted to thank Councillor Devine for bringing it in.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Once again, thanks to Councillor Devine for bringing this forward. I'm sure the Council won't have any problem in the future. And now I'm supporting and promoting a charity, so thank you, Councillor Devine. The final member who contacted me was Councillor Boggs.
Bermogget, Deputy Mayor, and I'll be very, very brief. It was just in relation to recycling week, and the events that Council have planned around it in conjunction with Halloween across the South End District, and in particular the costume swap and repairs events that took place both in the Guildhall here, but also in the Alley Theatre. I didn't go to the one in the Guildhall, but I heard it was a great success. I did go to the one in the Alley Theatre, and to say that it was something fresh and new, and really, really exciting. There were children along with their parents running about. Can I have this? Can I take this? Can we leave this back and swap it for that? The fantastic Siobhan Carr from Celtic Irish Art was there, with people bringing in costumes that have maybe needed an inch taken up or a hem let down here to make last year's costume do for this year, or could you add this on, and picking bits and pieces up, and children going away with costumes that didn't cost a fortune for parents. As everybody in here is well aware, we're going through a cost of living crisis, so reducing the cost, because we all know that they can cost an absolute fortune, particularly for children that wear them for a couple of hours and then never again. So it was fantastic to see, and I want to commend the council officers and for the council staff that were there, particularly on a Sunday in the Alley Theatre. But there was an ask that, you know, it's great that we did it for Recycling Week, but a couple of people that I spoke to while I spent some time there was, are there other opportunities for us to do something similar throughout the year? One of the suggestions that came up was Christmas jumpers are another thing that cost a fortune, and they're only worn at one time of the year, and then nobody wears the same one twice. Is that something that we could look at of a Christmas jumper swap or alteration on the same kind of model? But a fantastic event, and I think when council officers put the hard work like that onto something new, we need to give them the credit for it. So just to commend everybody that took part, and hopefully welcome more events similar in the future. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Boggs, anyone want in on that issue raised? No, just myself, just a brilliant issue to raise, Councillor Boggs, and totally agree with everything you said, and it was a brilliant initiative, and hopefully it does, as you say, continue right throughout the year for different festivities and events that we can swap jumpers and shout hooray and whatever else has to go, but definitely worth raising. Moving on now to item number 6 is the confirmation of the open minutes of the meeting of Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Wednesday, the 27th of September. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Proposed, Councillor McDaid. Seconder? Councillor McHugh, yep. Okay, any matters arising? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. 3 matters arising. C48, page 10, the Joe Kennedy business delegation. This matter was raised by Councillor Hart, and it's on the back of that. We were extending an invitation to Joe Kennedy III, Special Envoy for Northern Ireland, and the US business Strabane. I note that this high-powered delegation is currently in Northern Ireland. I believe they had a closed-door gathering in Belfast City Hall yesterday. Has there been any contact with and was there any response that there is the potential that on this high-powered visit they would actually come to our area?
Through you, Chair. Yes, there was a letter sent following the notice of motion at the end of last month. There has been a fair significant degree of contact in the last couple of days. The delegation is visiting the Guildhall on Thursday at 12 o'clock for a short event. And the council business team has been in liaison with the Executive Office, Invest NI, and the US Consul's Office to help facilitate that visit. So it will take place at 12 o'clock in the Guildhall on Thursday.
Thanks for that, Mayor, and I anticipate that members will be updated at a later stage as to progress.
To do so through you, Chair. Yeah.
I think given that it was a proposal that came actually from Councillor Hart, that members need to be kept on board as to what's actually happening. Further to that then, C50 on page 11, the Strabane Academy site, I believe there are ongoing developments within that particular issue and our engagement with the EA. Are we at liberty to hear more on that?
Happy that through you, Chair, that Karen might come in, but I think we're perhaps at a stage where a further meeting is arranged with EA next week, and it may be more prudent to update following that meeting.
Yeah, through you, Chair, we have been corresponding with EA and we've arranged a meeting for early next week, and we can update members accordingly following on from that. Thank you.
Thanks again, Deputy Mayor, that's appreciated. And finally, 357 CODA, we had written seeking an urgent meeting with the Secretary of State, and I note the word urgent. Has there been any response from the Secretary of State?
Not that I'm aware of. Through you, Deputy Mayor, letters have gone. I haven't yet seen a response to those unless Ellen can advise otherwise. Okay. Okay, so we will update members as soon as we can access that response. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, or Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Any other matters arising? Nope. We'll move on then to the adoption of the open minutes of the following committees. Starting off with the monthly Governance and Strategic Planning Committee held on Tuesday, the 3rd of October, pages 47 to 58. Can I have a proposer, please? Proposed, Tierney, seconded, Councillor McGinley. Any matters arising? Councillor Boggs?
Governance, we're on our way.
Yep.
Yep. GSP 153/23. And it was just in relation to the proposal that I had made to defer a decision on that item until this meeting of full council, in order for members to go away and consult further with council officers. I'm glad and I thank very much council officers who spent a considerable amount of time with myself and party colleagues after that meeting. And that meeting provided a lot of clarity in relation to what has to change in order for those projects to progress. And there is a reconfiguration of some of the aspects of it. But the core aims that we were dealing with before are going to go ahead. And I suppose some of the queries that I had around it have been answered in relation to where we go forward after that. And I'm glad to see that within the reconfiguration, the partners have come to the table and offered increased funding, which is a better news story, I think, particularly even for Strabane Town, where there is more now than we had before. It may look slightly different, but those changes had to take place in order to make sure that we take the steps forward that we need to. So thanks again to council officers just for their engagement on it. And I'm happy to propose that now that we deferred it to this meeting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Boggs, will you seconder for that, please? Councillor Tierney.
Deputy Mayor, thank you, and thanks to Councillor Boggs for raising this issue, and thanks to council officers who met with ourselves, Deputy Mayor, along with Dinah McCrossan, MLA, to go through some of the concerns that we had as well. I'm glad to hear that how they were rolling out, and like Councillor Boggs, welcome the increase in funding, which was coming from partners, but it begs the question, were they holding out on us at the first instance? But where we're at now, I think, is a positive position for all of the projects, but particularly the ones that we had concern around in Strabane. And I think it's good to see that these are progressing, and I'm happy to second the proposal from Councillor Boggs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tierney. I don't see anyone else on that issue. Anyone else under matters arising in governance strategic planning? No. Okay, moving on to the monthly planning committee held on Wednesday, the 4th of October, pages 59 to 68. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Leonard, seconder. And Councillor Fleming. Okay, any matters arising? No. Okay, moving on to the reconvened planning committee held on Thursday, the 5th of October, pages 69 to 72. A proposer, please. Councillor Minnick, seconder. Councillor Jackson. Any matters arising? No. Moving on to the monthly Business and Culture Committee held on Tuesday, the 10th of October, pages 73 to 92. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Hutton. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Hart. Any matters arising? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you. BC 132 on page 78. Car park resurfacing update. I had a query with regard to the main car park in Castleberg, the Albert Street car park. An issue has arisen subsequent to the resurfacing and remarking there, which is absolutely excellent. And it's the line of demarcation between DFI and council owning within that particular site. there's confusion as to an access road which circumvents the car park. And then the car park itself, which is inside flower beds. Is it possible that I could receive, or members could receive, a map showing exactly which is the council car park and which is the DFI road? The reason for asking that, there are properties which surround that car park and have access into that area. And there have been issues of cars blocking access and egress from their particular areas and properties within that. And therefore, if I knew if it was council or DFI, I would know who to approach with regard to at least marking keep clear areas within it. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yep, no issue with that. That'll be no problem. Alderman Hussey, any more matters arising on the buzz culture? All happy enough. Okay, moving on to the monthly Health and Community Committee. Sorry, the monthly Environment New Generation Committee held on Wednesday, the 11th of October, pages 93 to 100. Can I have a proposer, please? Alderman Middleton, and seconded Alderman Hussey. Any matters arising? Alderman Hussey.
I'm heading back to the car park. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Which one?
Members on the committee know, and data officers know, that I have an issue with regard to tidy up work on the shrub beds there. And I do have to say, I listened with great interest to, I think what John Quinn was on with Mark Patterson today, with regard to the issue that you've already congratulated our council team on, the award of the gold medal, I think it was, for the Small Cities Award. And John was quite rightly extolling the great work undertaken by our teams, and that now that the beddings, flower plants are being withdrawn and maybe some winter put in, but there would also be a lot of tidy up work that the team would be involved in, whether it was, I think he called it scutching pavements and edging pathways and whatnot. And I just want clarification. Will that team be able to go in and do the requested work on the shrub beds at that car park? There was a misconception that what was being looked for there was planters and flowers. That's not the case. It's simply to tidy up and weed underneath and around the shrub areas to make them more presentable looking and at least on a par with the city and indeed the car park in Strabane, which is similar shrub beds as well, as you well know. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Chair, members will follow up on that.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Anyone else under matters arising? No. Okay, moving on into the monthly Health and Community Committee held on Thursday, the 12th of October, pages 101 to 112. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Tierney, seconder. Councillor McDade. Any matters arising? Councillor Heaney.
Thanks, Chair. It's C182/23, just where we had received a delegation from the Grenfell campaign group. And it was just over the fact that since that meeting, we've had our own fire at the Mandarin Palace complex down on the Strand Road. Although thankfully everyone escaped unharmed on that occasion. However, there was 15 approximately people left sort of standing on their own clothes in the street with nowhere to go. So like the council's emergency resilience team did an excellent job. It kicked in and premises were opened and people got accommodation secured. So just wanted to put that in a public record, Chair, and thank the team for that work.
Problem, Councillor Heaney, that'll be noted. Alderman McMorris.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. It's just, it's not in regards to what's on the minutes, but I would just following the following speaker. I'd just like to highlight the resilience team within council. There was an incident on the Waterside there where there was a pipe bomb attack on a property. and none of the residents was able to get access into the community centre. There was no key holders, so there was a breakdown in regards to the resilience following that incident. So I'd just like maybe council to take on board, and maybe follow up. I know I spoke to Anne Gallagher about it, and basically she says that she was going to have a meeting following it, but just so that we're making sure that the protocols is all there following these kind of incidents where there isn't people standing in the streets and there's nowhere for them to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris. That's noted. Councillor Riley.
Yeah, just on the same issue, Chair, and thanks to Alderman McMorris for raising it. I'd been in touch with the PSNI in relation to that incident, and yeah, I think Alderman McMorris is correct in terms of having those lines of communication open, not just for instances of those types, but also just for inclement weather that may be coming at us in the months ahead. I think it would be useful to have those lines of communication fully open. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Okay, any more or anybody else on matters arising for the Health and Community Committee? No. Okay, moving on to the special meeting of the Business and Culture Committee held on Friday, the 20th of October, pages 113 to 118. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Hart, seconded. Councillor Farrell. Any matters arising? No. Or content. Okay, that leads us on now to the confidential for decision. So when we just get the, sorry.
Yeah, just there was a special meeting of environment and regeneration. Just waiting.
Next month it'll come forward.
That'll come next month, if that's okay, just to get the minutes obviously done for it. Yep. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just declare the interest on, before we go on to confidential, on HC 201/23, the land disposal. I'm an employee of Critters Talk Community Arts.
Councillor Ideas.
Declaration of interest for the same agenda item. I'm a member of Seaside Brown Oaks.
Okay, problem. Else? Okay, yep. Oh, I'll just wait till the thumbs up now for confidential. Sorry, can I have a proposer to go on to confidential? Councillor Boggs, seconder. Councillor Mooney. Okay, so item number 9,